The policing minister, Chris Philp, wants CCTV of shoplifters and burglars to be checked against official passport and immigration databases using facial recognition technology. Now, he says it would massively help curb crime, especially this recent surge we've seen in shoplifting. But civil liberty campaigners have described the plans as an Orwellian nightmare, saying it would be a gross violation of privacy. Nicola, how do you feel about your picture used from your passport to be available to police to scan through if they see an image of someone who might look like you who's been shoplifting? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've not got a problem with it because, you know, I'm not shoplifting, so I wouldn't have a problem. And it seems like it could be useful. You know, there has been a surge in shoplifting and, you know, burglars and other crimes. It seems like it could be a good idea. The only problem is, how many people are we going to get wrong? So, you know, I'd have no problem with my picture being used, but I would have a problem with being arrested because I was falsely identified, and that's where the problem would lie for me.
Well, I mean, Chris Philp has been saying that the technology has advanced so far. You won't be surprised to hear that AI is also involved in this technology. So this idea that they can actually recognise people from blurry images, they're already available apps. There's this one app that you can take someone's picture, just their picture, upload it, and it will find this person on the internet. It's very accurate. So that's the kind of stuff they're using. But you're right, you know, we may get falsely identified people. Jemma, how do you feel about this? Essentially, all it is expanding what the information that the government already holds on us to make it available for the police.
Yeah, but 45 million of us have passports and we've got those for travel purposes, and we haven't given our consent to have those images used and subverted and to be essentially in police lineups. And my issue with this is that everything that the Conservatives are announcing at this conference, they're kind of plucking social issues that do exist. So shoplifting is a terrible problem at the moment. The police, you know, just don't have enough officers on the ground to be able to deal with it. And I know that for shopkeepers, it's incredibly stressful. But, you know, part of the reason there's a massive surge in shoplifting is because the Tories have been in government. And quite frankly, we've got an inadequate welfare system. We've got rocketing food prices, soaring rents, and a lot of that shoplifting is born out of desperation. So it's like, well, you're trying to fix problems that your government have created by being really authoritarian. And it's like anything they don't like, they make it harder to protest. They make it harder for people to speak out. And obviously making shoplifting more difficult is a good thing. I feel very uneasy about this. OK, so let me just put to you the scenario. You've got a crime be committed, whether it's shoplifting, stealing a bike, stealing a car, assault. It gets captured on CCTV. Do you not want the police to have all the tools available at their disposal to be able to identify someone who they think may have been perpetrated a crime? Let's also remember, wherever they find, they will have to put evidence, they will have to go to court if it has to. You know, we're not saying this is going to be judge and jury in one computer system, but why should the police not be able to have all the tools available to them to identify people who may have committed crime? I mean, you're saying they should.
Well, they need some help because, as you just said, like, you know, if you phone up and report a bike being stolen, the police do nothing about it.
Well, even if you give them CCTV footage, they'll say, well, we don't really have enough to go on.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I can say that from experience, by the way.
I've got neighbours in the street who've had that, and they've handed in, you know, a footage of the perpetrators.
They don't have time to do it, do they? They don't have enough.
Absolutely.
So what's your problem when they put that in a machine and that machine identifies the person from a passport database, which the government already hold on us?
I think at the heart of it is a trust issue, because I don't trust this government with anything, quite frankly, because they have been at their conference talking about things that don't exist, saying they're going to stop things that don't exist, whether it's meat taxes or rolling out 20-mile-per-hour speed limits or these 15-minute cities. That's all lies. It's sort of not factual, and they're sort of creating these big problems. So then when Chris Philp says this is totally accurate, because it has to be accurate, I don't know if I believe him. All
right, let's speak to Jake Herford now from the Civil Liberties campaign group Big Brother Watch. Jake, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, Jake, for joining us. What has been the response from Big Brother Watch to what Chris Philp has just announced?
Well, we're incredibly alarmed by this announcement. Chris Philp's absent is threatening to put 45 million Britons on a police lineup every time the police want to do a search. We've got it. Gemma's got it exactly right. We've never consented to how our photos have been used in this way, and it will destroy trust in the government. Anytime they ask us to get our data, we're not going to worry about what other purposes it could be used for. So it isn't just when it looks like you. Every search will be a biometric scan of 45 million Britons. And you talked about the Police National Database. 10 years ago, the High Court found the retention of on the Police National Database of images of innocent people was unlawful. The police have failed to delete these in the past decade. So I can't square that with using 45 million passport images, never held for crime purposes. I can't understand how they can justify using them in this circumstance.
So are you saying, Jake, that you are happy for someone to commit a crime and go unfound so that everyone else's civil liberties can be maintained?
We all face I genuinely don't think it's proportionate. The police need to give them more resources to do their job. There's an awful example up in Durham last week where a shop worker was assaulted. The people were caught, but the CPS dropped the prosecution. We have a cost of living crisis that's causing a spike in things like shoplifting. We have a police force who unfortunately aren't that well resourced. So instead of focusing on these high-tech authoritarian systems that Chris Philp thinks will get some headlines, we should be funding the police properly and facilitating them to do their job as they should be able to, rather than relying on sort of inaccurate authoritarian high-tech solutions.
But part of their job, Jake, is to use tools that are available to them. And just like we progressed by using, for example, DNA forensics and fingerprinting, all these advancements in technology, you cannot deny that actually CCTV and facial recognition is a tool that police forces around the world are going to be using. So again, when it comes back to that we haven't consented to our photographs being used, that Jemma and yourself have pointed out. What about all the amount of information that we give out on social media on using Home Assistance? So much of our data is already, whether you agree with this or not, is being used without our consent. But in this point, it's being used to put criminals away. So why are you objecting to this particular one?
Well, we object to data being used without people's consent across the board, whether it's online, whether it's by policing. Data rights are about proportionality. We do not think the use of facial recognition, biometric scanning 45 million photographs is a proportionate use of data. You wouldn't allow the police to put a GPS tracker in the back of your hand to follow you around everywhere to see where you are if you've committed a crime. You'd appreciate that was a disproportionate use of your data. In the same way, we believe the scanning of 45 million passport photographs every time they want to find a shoplifter is disproportionate.
Okay. Jake, thank you for giving us your time. I really appreciate it. Jake Herford there from Big Brother Watch. I mean, Jake's got a point there. It wasn't consented to. I mean, funnily enough, he talks about the GPS signals. You know, we wouldn't allow that, or we would feel that's an invasion of our privacy to carry around the GPS signal. And yet we all do it because we all carry around one of these, which does exactly that. Now, the government doesn't have access to the position, but Apple does, Google does, if I open Google Maps.
And so, there's CCTV everywhere.
And so is this a bit of an overreaction? I know a lot of people will quickly reach to, well, if you've got nothing to hide, then you've got nothing to fear. But it's not that, is it?
But you're overlooking a lot of the reasons, you know, as he said as well. You know, we're broken as a society at the moment. We really, really are. We're not in a great state. There's so much poverty. And to overlook that, like, I want to hear about what they are going to be doing about that.
Yes.
And the police, we all know that they are desperately trying to recruit. I was on the train the other day as massive posters. You know, they're just completely short-staffed.
All right, let's find out what people are saying at home. Peter in London. Peter, good afternoon. What would you like to say?
Hi. I had my car smashed into. They caught him by some DNA he left, and he said he was a witness.
Right.
Now, I just feel the police have got their hands tied behind their back half the time because they haven't got proof, they haven't got video, they haven't got this, they haven't got that.
I know what you mean, Peter, and that's what Gemma's been saying as well. I've had a similar story to you. They caught someone who broke into our house from a shoe print. But that entailed a special police officer to come to the house. He spent hours trying to find prints. And they just don't have, this was about 15 years ago, they just don't have the staff at the moment. But Peter, would you object to your passport photo or people's passport photos? There's about 45.5 million of us who've got passports. Do you object to the police making use of those passport photos in order to put more criminals away?
No problem at all. I personally don't have a passport, but I mean, use every means at their disposal.
And do you not feel that, like Jemma said and Jake was saying earlier, that people haven't given permission for that picture to be used by the police?
Oh,
Does that concern you?
So that permission. Look, if a crime's being committed, use every weapon at the police's disposal.
But then it's got to get to court as well, and the courts are completely backlogged as well.
OK. Peter, thank you for that. I think it is going to be interesting whether or not the police will put those two databases together. I also think that it is a tool that's already arrived. People are already being identified for crimes via CCTV. So it's going to be something that is going to be used.
I don't think we can imagine what is lying in store. I mean, now just from your habits on the internet, you get given advertisements that are bespoke to you, right? So kind of out there, everybody knows what you're doing anyway.